The record. Hi, thank you, Raees. I believe there was some confusion about the date. We apologize. Thank you very much. So, as I introduced you earlier, Raees Muhammad is the founder of Dalit Camera, a website and a YouTube channel that we all know that shares information, articles, opinion pieces about Dalit, Bahujan, and Adipati lives. And also known as a website that records it seems to sound from yeah, right. Hello.
Hello, yeah.
Yeah, could you maybe mute your microphone so that I could just introduce you properly? Um, and so this is a website that also hosts much of Hany's work in popular areas or areas of social concern. And as I said, Raees is the founder of Dalit Camera, and he will speak to us today on the talks that are on the program. So please, over to you, Raees. And we have 15 minutes, after which we will take questions. Questions in the chat box, please.
Thank you for introducing me, and apology also for not being joining earlier. And also thanks Ansari, Madhav Prasad, and Satya, and Hani also. So in this discussion, I just want to bring out my research work and how it was shaped, how it got shaped by Hani. So I hail from a community which is told to be as a scavenging community. So therefore, when I went to English and Foreign Languages University, I got into it. I that atmosphere, the university atmosphere, was completely alien to me because I come from a government arts college, and then first generation. So when I went there, I had a very difficult life in the campus. So it was Hani and Jenny who really motivated and encouraged me. So and later part, Hani also became my supervisor, and Jenny was very supportive to asking me to look into some of the political issues surrounding our community. And our campus, English and Foreign Language University, was a vibrant place. Then Susi Garu, Satya, and students like Vengat and Rajshekhar, Parthasarathi, all of them, Madhav Prasad, many people were there, Tadi, Murli Tadi, and most of them were very politically mobilizing. The students were mobilized very politically. There were a lot of discussion, and that really shaped my research, and that discussion made me to think where I come from, because I was a civil service aspirant. Actually, when I went to English and Foreign Languages CPhil erstwhile, I was supposed to go for a BA degree, MA degree, and do civils. But after that, when I went there, they taught me that administrative services, what we have to look is not the administrative service, rather than look into the community where we come from and the condition of what they are. And it was a new for me. And then Hani, since Jenny and Hani was the only person in academics were encouraging me, and so when I said that we are called as non-native speakers, even students in Andhra Pradesh used to say, some of the Tamil students, that this guy is not from Tamil Nadu. Though I was born and brought up, my father, mother, all were born and brought up. They used to say that I'm a migrant. And then even in Tamil Nadu, then I started when I started looking into it, I saw that even in Tamil Nadu, there is a widespread talk discussion that this Chaklier community, which I'm supposedly come from, that community is a migrant community from Andhra Pradesh. And the reason they give is because they speak a language which is not Tamil. That is, it is a Telugu, closely associated with the Telugu, they would say. So they are Telugu migrants, they would say. Some people would say they are the Madhyas. So this discussion, when I went into this discussion, I saw that this discussion is not a simple discussion. It is a very, very politically motivated, and it has been there for the 1 decade. And then I entered into MPhil. After my MA, I entered into MPhil, and it is only because of Hani my academic career survived, because I was returning from the train and I got a message from Jenny that come back, because I thought my academics is over. Because one thing is I was not able to cope up with that new trend, new thing. But then after the entrance exam and interview, I was invited, and then I got a position there in the MPhil as an MPhil student, and Hani was my guide. And Hani was in linguistics, and I was closely with the socio kind of an idea. So Hani was one supervisor. I would say that he was neither he was not a supervisor for me, but he was a perfect, excellent supervisor. I'm very honored to have him, because he shaped my research. Because the research, what he was trying to say is look into the other angles and look into, because you all must know that social linguistics is a department which is not very developed department in the area of caste studies, because social linguistic studies in India are mostly influenced by the mainstream Brahminical cultural studies opinion. Like Srinivasan, M. N. Srinivasan's idea would be there. So what they say was, see, the language they speak, Brahmins speak a language that is a caste language and it's a class language. They would bring this caste and class into it, and they would end up saying that it is a class issue, it is not a caste. So this discussion was there, and it is a minimal, just basic discussion, which I found it was very shocking for me. And then Hani shaped my research from the bottom to the top, and I got distinction for my research. And after that, I entered a PhD, and then he got transferred. And in PhD, what was interesting for me is, and Madhav Satya also helped us to shape, because my English and foreign languages erstwhile CFL said that they were not interested to take me as a student, none of the teachers. And it was Hani who said that Hani was the only hope. That okay, because they said that Hani transferred, got to Delhi, and then when I went to when he went to Delhi, I did not have a supervisor, and then they told me that you take anybody as a supervisor. Then because they did not want to take me, it is not that they was happy to have me. They was never happy to have me in the department. And so I was a person, since Hani left the campus. My life was wandering here and there like a stray dog, I would say, because neither culture studies kept me in the department, nor did the linguistics department. So I was jumping around here and there, and Madhav and all of them helped us to go into deep into the studies. Because in MPhil, Satya, and while doing this research, we all found that it is not that Chakler community or scavenging community is called a non-native. It is scavenging community across India called a non-native. So that was the very interesting fact. And this non-native means that something we can say that the migrant, because in Tamil Nadu, then the migrant question comes that what is the period of one person becomes a migrant, because the Aryan Dravidian literatures are there, and then there is a Brahmin community who got migrated, and then there is other communities who have been migrated. So they do not face a problem which the Chaklier community faces, because Chaklier becomes vulnerable because they belong to SC community. Valmikis, Bangis all become vulnerable because they belong to SC community. So that was one interesting aspect. Then later I went to Shimla. In Shimla was the one place which I was. It was troubling for me, because I was part of this Dalit Camera. We were taking video, and it was Hani who said that. Ravi, that time I was Ravi. So he said that, Ravi, you are uploading video and we are not able to see. Why don't you keep a name? And then it is Hani who kept that name called Dalit Camera. It's a powerful name. He said that, why don't you keep Dalit Camera? So we kept the Dalit Camera. So the Dalit Camera experience, and all the experience what I had in my academics. Then I went to Shimla, and in Shimla, I had peace of mind to do research, because Dalits do not have. For me, Dalits, in my experience, Dalits do not. If you become a political Dalit, you will not have peace of mind to study, because the atmosphere in campus would be so vibrant that you need to always pay attention to the admissions, what happens, discrimination, what happens to student, and you can't keep quiet. So it is you don't have peace of mind. So therefore, in Shimla, I had this peace of mind, and that 2 years program, I started thinking, what is this? It is becoming a dead end. because it is all non-native. All of them are non-native. It's fine. We call migrant. Then what else? Where to go? And it is then Zizek's theory of toilet was inspiring for me, because he says that every country's ideology is connected to the toilet. You can study the ideology in everyone's particular region's toilet. Like, would say that London Anglo-Saxons, that he would bring German toilets, French toilets, he would bring, and that made me to think about the Indian toilets. And it is then I found the non-native of chaklias, or the non-native of the scavengers, is also connected with the non-native, the outside of the outside toilets being built in every houses. Then when I went deep into it, I found most of the houses always avoided keeping toilet. Then I went to this vice. Then there is another discussion says that, see, Britishers introduced this caste system. So Britishers architectures or these, for example, the municipal buildings, various kinds of developments. You can say most culture studies, the prominent the not the Dalit literatures, but the non-Dalit literatures in culture studies would say that one way they argue that it is a Britishers introduced the caste. But interestingly, the Britishers buildings also had a toilet, separate toilets, because no British buildings had three entrances. Only Indian British, when they built three entrances to their houses. For example, Viceroy Regal is one classic example. And interestingly, this is the paper I presented in CSDS also. Sadly, I was not even encouraged, and because so the Viceroy Regal has three entrances. One is for the main entrance, then is for the cook, that is servants, and then there is a circle entrance, that circle stairs, that is for the scavenger. And it is not the imagination I'm giving. I found a blue record, the planning itself had this. So now people say, see, this is what we say that Britishers introduced. No, but it starts from the Agrahara, because when we go deeper into it, you find Agrahara. In Agrahara, toilets were always kept, and there was a back door for the scavengers to enter, and the scavenger should enter into the back door and remove the shit and go early in the morning. And this is the thing adopted in most buildings. Even in my houses or many houses, when we build houses, we call houses or the temple a place of living. So it means the toilet as an impure object should not be part of that object itself. So, for example, then temple becomes a classic example where toilets were never allowed. So that is why you find in that is my understanding interpretation also. One of the interpretations, we can have many, but one interpretation is temples always festivals. Indian festivals always have too much of shit in it, because they don't build toilets. So this made me to go deeper into the issue of toilets. And even this time, Hani was the person said that I still remember walking with them, because it is always I don't find anyone after I went to Shimla, when this was it was a very important research for me. None There was no one to encourage. There was no one. I would certainly say it was Hani and Jenny. Otherwise, I would not even say anyone. Even if I bring some ideas, they would just ask me to shut up and mind your business, because Hani was the person who encouraged and said that, why don't you explore this, why don't you explore that. And Hani also told me that, see Ravi, see that time Ravi, so Ravi, why don't you look into the kitchen. So that was he said that kitchen has to be something to relate something to it also. Then later I went into the kitchen and developed the idea of how architectures in India are built based on the Indian Hindu caste system's rule, caste Hindu rule. So later, so that is one thing which I started in the going deeper into it. And then when this research, I found this toilet as being built, and even the Delhi metros did not build toilets. Delhi metros said that toilets cannot be kept inside because it's a safety issue, and even Delhi metros kept outside. So therefore, the scavenging community keep being kept outside is actually a part of our understanding of how we build our architecture. So it is not a simple thing. It is the same thing. Then we can go ahead how villages are set up. So therefore, I would I argue these days that anti-caste studies should study not have been studying caste in relation to bodies. But without body, there's no caste. Because that is what they say. Because that is why even we can say that Brahma's bodies are divided into four categories. They are ladder. All would say that is what without body there is no caste. But I started interpreting the caste is reproduced not through bodies but rather architectures and space. So therefore, I right now I go to South Africa. When I was in South Africa, as a postdoctoral fellow, I never, I can, I 100% I can tell you, as much, as far as I haven't met an Indian, I was very confident. I had this body language, confident language. I had everything normal. I found a different experience. But when I see an Indian, there is that space, Indian spaces when I go, I really feel threatened that whether this is this space or whose space is this, because I come from this community and it's always, I always be very conscious about entering into spaces. Like let it be airport, let it be the train or AC compartment or sleeper compartment, any compartments. These all experience, the initial experience one would have. So therefore, spaces is very important, and that is reproduced. Caste is getting reproduced. This is my strong study, and then I started studying toilets, going deeper into studying toilets, and it is then I found even churches started building toilets based on the Hindu temple structures. Like they reduce the toilets, they don't even build the toilets. They would keep in an isolated or some places, which I would say that churches built in the abroad and churches built in India are completely a different setup, because based on the toilets I'm talking about. So then I found it is
Sorry to
only.
interrupt, but could you wind up in 2 3 minutes so that we can
Yeah,
take
sure.
another point in the discussion?
Yeah,
Because
sure. Yeah, sure. Then it is then I found that in my research I found that it is Islam toilets, that is the masjid toilets, are very revolutionary, because the purity pollution ideology which is we inhabit is completely opposite. And it is then I found that caste cannot be because the idea which we have, all of us, let it be Dalits or non-Dalits, all of us have a kind of an understanding of purity. What is like a temple? This shit is a impure for Dalits and non-Dalits, and shit those who clean shit are impure for Dalits and non-Dalits. But in Islam it teaches a different, because it is a daily experience of everyone who goes to the masjid. It says that purity pollution is not a permanent category, it is a different category, it is a temporal. So therefore that is where I started going deeper into, and I found Ambedkar saying that as far as one bees in Hinduism, you cannot fight Hinduism. And that is where I embraced Islam, and so that is this is my research. This is the outcome of my research, and yeah, and after that I couldn't meet Hani. Yeah, thank you.
thank you, Raees. Now, if people would like to ask as usual questions in the chat box, so you could unmute yourself because we are now at the end of the final day's final session. I'm sorry, but we've had to go at breakneck speed through these last 2 3 days, and I think people get quite tired by the end of it. So unless somebody raises a hand in the next 20 seconds, um, I would like to say a few words of thank you and not hold people back anymore because it's past 8 p.m. and many people have responsibilities towards the home as well in these times. Okay, thank you, Raees. Thank you, Jyotirmoy, for bringing to the fore other aspects of the life. I mean, that we, in the last 3 days, we've charted one, which is that the many worlds that our friend Hani Babu and all of us live in. And I would, as a linguist, would like to emphasize that perhaps the linguist lives in the world where the um, which are the most complex of all, at least as what I've been calling the second wave generation of linguists, who have had not only to, who have wanted, rather, not had, who have wanted not only to look at questions of language as something which is in the mind, and with this incredible endowment, an innate endowment that gives us the ability to actually acquire any language in the world, and that if looked from the lens that Talma implicitly mentioned and mapped to the outside world, and David just spoke really about what was inside the head. Languages which are not genetically related, which are not geographically contiguous, which have nothing to do with each other, look remarkably the same or remarkably different. The world outside the mind is one where languages are masquerades, language names are masquerades, because what the innate endowment provides is is something which is within the reach of everybody. They're just depending on a very little bit of an exposure to primary linguistic data and the innate endowment of the species. But the worlds that languages live in are hierarchical, shot through with difference, with disadvantage, with inequality, along axes which are not only about just linguistic difference, but axes that come from society about um, uh, um, uh, caste, gender, class, identity. Today yesterday and today it's from the students, Hani's former students, where, we've heard um, um, expressions of how alienating and discriminatory the worlds that we have built can live in. Now, as for the second wave linguists, I think, for the linguist, it is not only then the world of the mind which has an attraction, because neither the kind of linguistics that you want to do, which describes language in society, nor the language in the mind, can possibly be done without at least attending and, as a human being, redressing the inequalities that are inherent, almost, or at least certainly endemic, to the existence of language and humans in society. Professor M.T. Hani Babu is human. And in the worlds that he lives in, as Raees has told us in so many words and over again, and as Jyotirmoy has told us, as I can tell you, as people who have known, and I'm sure all his colleagues, that helping each other to stand up to intellectually, both to be open your eyes and see that the categories that with the categories of your inquiry are actually incredibly messed up in the outside world, and that it is in your workplace and in your immediate environments that you must at least initiate the matter of redress, because everybody must have equal rights. For that, Hani Babu has been put in jail and unjustly charged. And but the questions that compel Hani are the questions that compel all of us who are friends of Hani Babu's panelists and attendees. And while like Grayson, he is removed from the question is not removed from him, and therefore has a permanent presence in our world. So, in my view, thank you so much, because for all of us, these who organize this conference, I think I speak on behalf of all of them, and all of us who have been hurt and wounded by Hani Babu's imprisonment and the fact that he has been so grossly mistreated by the state. The fact that these 3 days, where we could, in the ways of in and manners of friendship, discuss some of the issues and the questions that we know continue to compel Hani Babu. We are confident, at least I am 100% confident, that one day, very soon, Hani Babu will be back to not being seen as the victim, but as somebody who is part of also a winged angel, but a winged angel of people who redress, not avenge. So, if anybody else would like to say something from the audience, please take this opportunity now. And I'm sure other organizers would like to speak. But from the bottom of our hearts, thank you for being here in solidarity, in not in sympathy, because these questions will continue to live. Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak? Um,
Uh, can I just say a word?
yeah,
It's small.
sorry, who? I'm sorry, I can't make out who it is.
Rice.
Please raise.
So Hani and me in the last phase, so we were developing an idea that is tone, the tone of a person. Because in my research, I also found that the tone of a person also makes can be decided who he or she is, because there is always a lower tone. For example, Dalits always speak a lower tone. There is a tone for any human being, and that minimum level also does not come to the mark of a Dalit. So this idea, me and Hani were trying to develop, and he was guiding me. Sadly, after he went into the prison, my academics life also gone to garbage. Thank you.
Satya, would you like to say a final word? Ira, Geeta, or anybody? Tanmoy? Kale. All right. So on this note, we will end the proceedings. And as we know, I put up in the chat, so you can have a quick look and see that we have a YouTube channel where all the talks will be up. Thank you.
Thank you.